All right, good afternoon all. My name is Terry with GII, and thank you for joining. For this quarter's Comma Club call, we have the unique opportunity of having GuideStar with us. Data and communicating impact are key conversation topics within philanthropy, as donors increasingly want to know, what am I investing in? And what's the impact that you as a nonprofit have in our community? Today, I'm thrilled to introduce Eva and Madeline from GuideStar, who are with us for an engaging session around how your GuideStar profile can help you communicate impact and reach more donors. Eva and Madeline, thank you for joining us, and take it away.
Hi everybody, this is Madeline. I'm the Marketing and Communications Associate here at GuideStar. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm also joined by my colleague Eva Nico, who's Senior Director of Programs, and welcome to our webinar. We're excited to have you all join us to maximize your GuideStar nonprofit profiles. Since today's event will be interactive, I wanted to take some extra time to go over some logistics. Right now, and for the first portion of today's event, we're going to be working in the GoToWebinar platform that you've joined us in. Later, we're going to encourage you to jump right into your organization's profile, so please, take this time to open up a new internet browser and log into your profile. This will prepare you for the activity later on. All right, some other logistics. To submit a question, just look in the control panel off to the side of your screen. You'll find a questions box there. Just type your question and send away. If you see only the questions header but not the box, select the arrow to the left to enable the questions box. Our hope is to answer all of your questions today during this event, but if we're unable to get to yours, please rest assured that we will reach out to you directly with an answer to get you pointed in the right direction. So send any questions our way. Now I'm going to turn over to my colleague Eva Nico. She's going to give you a brief overview of how your information from your nonprofit profile connects you to online and mobile giving opportunities, as well as how to position yourself to donors and funders.
Thank you very much, Madeline. Really appreciate that. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to join you today to talk about the nonprofit profile. Madeline mentioned that I am the Senior Director of Programs at GuideStar, and really the profile is the program that allows nonprofits to come to GuideStar and to start reaching beyond the tax form. I am just going to take control of the presentation for a moment, so to tell you a little bit about what we'll be talking about today. So first of all, before you spend time on the profile, I want to let you know how it is that GuideStar connects you to many online and mobile giving opportunities in particular, and why it's worth your time to update your profile. I also want to give you a little bit of insight into some of the content, why we ask the questions that we ask, and how that content helps you communicate your work to potential donors and funders. We also want to share with you some interactive demonstrations and tips about how to successfully navigate the GuideStar profile and our Seals of Transparency program, which recognizes organizations for sharing this additional information. And then finally, we'll have an action item during this webinar. I don't know about you all, but there are many webinars I like to go to, and often you hear a lot of great content and then you have a lot of to-dos after the session. Well, we're hoping to actually get you into your profile today and help you accomplish one of those to-dos. So I hope you'll do that with us. So before launching into the profile content, I want to tell you a little bit more about the why. The profile is really one stop, a hub of information about your organization that goes to many destinations. So first of all, you might be familiar with GuideStar.org. That's our website where you can go and look at your organization and any of the 2.4 million nonprofit organizations in the US. Our website has over 7 million annual unique users per year, and this is a combination of nonprofits, donors, funders, media who visit the site. We also have over 100,000 social media followers through our channels. And periodically, we do share with them information such as, a set of Goodwills just got to platinum as a group. Isn't that exciting? So we kind of promote organizations and share information about the organizations who work with us. And I hope that as a result of this work with you on the webinar today and continued engagement at your summer conference, we'll be able to celebrate some of the progress that you'll be making on your profile. Now, that's not the end of the story. We also are a hub of information for hundreds of other platforms that feature nonprofits in their experience and in front of their audiences. So the data that you share on your profile not only goes to GuideStar.org, but with your permission is shared across almost 200 platforms. The 20 donation portals, some of the largest donation portals in the country, which are responsible for over $150 million annually in giving. All the major donor advised funds use GuideStar data as kind of the basis of information about the nonprofits they feature to their donors, as well as hundreds of other applications, websites, and programs. And this page would get very busy if we put all of them on there, but we wanted to highlight to you some of the major portals that use GuideStar. So our newest partnership that we're very excited about is with Facebook. But we have also had a long-standing partnership with Amazon Smile, Network for Good, Just Give, Volunteer Match, CrowdRise, and many others. I've mentioned donor advised funds. This is a growing area of giving in the US, and all of the major funds such as Fidelity Charitable, Schwab, use GuideStar as well. And then finally, we are also working hard to make sure that we try to save you some time, that we try to share this data in ways that make sense with funders. And so we work closely with many grants management software vendors to integrate nonprofit data into that experience. So I mentioned Facebook. I mean, we're extremely excited about this. I remember when I first came to GuideStar, someone was saying, for a nonprofit, the world of social media can be, sometimes a little bit overwhelming. Which websites to be on, which profiles to manage, how to think about all of that. But one of the best tips I got was, a nonprofit really you want to go where the audience already is. Right? You need your own website, but you're not necessarily expecting to drive a ton of traffic to your own website. You want to go where the people are. Well, I think we all know that there are over 1.6 billion people on Facebook already. We have a new partnership with Facebook where nonprofits on their own pages can run fundraising campaigns and process donations once they go through Facebook's process. Facebook uses GuideStar to initially verify the status of an organization, that it's an existing entity in compliance with the IRS and other rules, and then it kind of draws information from the profile to help to help start that page and do that validation. And then also individuals can fundraise on behalf of organizations on Facebook as well. So it's not just you doing your own fundraiser, but your supporters can fundraise on your behalf as well, and that's fed with the profile information. So that's super exciting. I had intended to say a little bit more about the way that we connect with some of our funders, and especially through the GuideStar for Grant application form, where essentially some of your profile information pre-populates parts of grant applications. So I'm sure you're all applying for a lot of grants, and often you get asked the same thing over and over again. Your GuideStar profile, if a funder is using G4G, can kind of pre-populate that information. If they're not using it, you should ask them why not, because it obviously saves a lot of nonprofits time that they could use to actually complete the more personal parts of the application and move on to their work. So we will be sharing this video as well as the rest of this presentation with you all after this webinar so that you can check that out, how we make that connection. So this is perhaps a good stopping point. I would love to know if you all have any questions just about sort of where your data goes and how that happens. And if not, we can continue on with the rest of the presentation.
Hi, Eva. I am not seeing any questions at this moment, so you can probably go ahead and head into the next section.
All right, sounds great. And if there is one, we'll answer it later. But hopefully you all see why this might make sense. We all have to maintain a lot of profiles. In a way, GuideStar also saves you time because once you update your information with us, it is current and updated on many of those other platforms that I just mentioned. So let's talk a little bit about the donor side of things and what is it that donors look for when they look at your information. Now, I'm sure we all would love to have an X-ray machine into the minds of donors, especially some of our larger supporters, but really any of our donors. You know, what are they thinking? What are they asking themselves? Unfortunately, I don't have that X-ray machine, but there is some research that has been conducted by the Money for Good work, which starts to ask, you know, what is it that donors are looking at? What are they paying attention to in terms of information about their nonprofits? And also, what are some of their concerns? So this slide, the next few slides will be a little bit data heavy, and they might be best as a reference after this webinar, but I'll give you a few highlights. So first of all, donors, when they give, many of them are happy with their giving experience. They're excited to support the nonprofit's work, and they believe in it. But there are sometimes some hesitations and concerns in the back of their minds as well. And when they have those, they're typically thinking about the following concerns. You know, how does this organization really use my money? And are they doing that responsibly? Obviously, we all get a lot of questions and emails and solicitations, and sometimes donors feel hassled and overwhelmed by the frequency of those. You know, this question, this third one is, you know, really interesting to me. The concern is I'm not sure who benefits and how from the work that a nonprofit does. And obviously, you know, we talk about who's supposed to benefit the work that we do, but it seems like sometimes that's not really getting through. And so we need to continue to think about how we share that information. There are some other concerns there, you know, the sort of that crisis mentality, whether the work is really addressing a social issue or maybe is more of a Band-Aid on a social issue. So there's a lot of questions that really start to go beyond, you know, just the money aspect, but how is it that the work makes a difference in our community? And I think Terry highlighted that at the front of this webinar, that that's something that donors really increasingly are paying attention to and care about, and that sometimes we're not as good as we could be about starting to provide those answers. So the majority of many of these questions can be tied and answered with elements of your profile. This slide actually kind of breaks down what it is that individual donors tend to think about, you know, the financials, especially the use of their donation, and an organization's effectiveness. What is it that advisors to individuals think about when they look at an organization? And again, you see that theme repeated. And then what is it that foundations tend to think about when they look at an organization? And for them, expected impact is really one of their top things that they're paying attention to, as well as an organization's past performance, and then maybe next to that, their financials. So it sort of shows you that there are some distinctions between individual donors and foundations. I mean, ultimately, a lot of these questions of effectiveness, financials, operations, and impact are tied together and are addressed in the profile. This slide I'm not going to go through the detail on, but essentially just literally it goes even deeper, and it says when they think about financials, what kind of pieces of information are they looking at? And unfortunately, in many cases, it is the percent of expense to overhead ratio, which is a real shame for the sector. I feel like it really keeps organizations starved of the funding that they need to continue to do and improve their work. And also they need in order to begin to really get a handle on what their impact is, which requires investment in evaluation, in monitoring, and in infrastructure and IT systems, all of which tend to go under that dreary heading of overhead. So this is something that we are working hard at GuideStar. We really are active on the overhead myth campaign, trying to change some of those mindsets. We also believe that the profile begins to address this as well, because yes, it features financial information, yes, it talks about operations, but it also really clearly talks about the mission, the programs, and the results of your work. And we can't keep telling donors, oh, don't pay attention to that overhead ratio, that's not the right way to look at us, without offering an alternative, a set of measures, a set of proof points, a set of stories that really direct their attention to the effects of the work, not just the expense of the work. So I think this quote kind of says it all, in the same way that you might be thinking about Facebook and LinkedIn as a place where you maintain a profile that helps you communicate directly with people in your life. Your GuideStar profile is kind of your organization's online profile, and it ensures that millions of donors and funders are finding accurate, timely information about your organization. And you might think to yourself, well, that's something that I already do on my website. That may be true, but it's not in the context of other social sector organizations, right? A donor already has to know you in order to go to your website, versus when they come on GuideStar, they're really looking at you in the context of other social sector organizations, that you belong in the sector, and that your work is part of the sector's work. I will pause there again just to see if there are any questions so far about kind of what donors are thinking about and what they're paying attention to. And if not, we'll be happy to come to the interactive profile part of the presentation.
Hi, Eva. I am not seeing any questions at the moment. Oh, wait a second. All right. Yeah, we actually don't have any questions right now, so we can head into the interactive portion.
Super. I think I see one question there about how it is that we understand and think about how we poll donors and understand what they're thinking about. So we were engaged in supporting some of the research done by the Money for Good research, and so that was kind of a point in time snapshot, and kind of a deep snapshot, especially of a kind of more wealthy, ultra high net worth donor. We also are in continued conversations with some of our partners that work with kind of the average individual donor more directly, partners like Facebook, Bright Funds, PayPal, such that we're kind of constantly learning from them. What are they experimenting with on their platform, given some of the direct contact that they have, and what is it that donors are responding to and asking about, and not only what are they saying that they want, but also what does it mean for the way that their donation amount changes. So we do keep in close touch with some of our partners who have a direct line to donors to kind of try to glean those insights of what's motivating giving, what's proving to be a satisfying giving experience, so that we can refine the information that we collect in the profile and hopefully share that information with you all on blogs and social media and in other channels. So I'll stop there, I think, and Madeline, I would love it if maybe you took us through the profile program and the seals of transparency.
You got it. All right. We can head on into that. And I will share my screen now. Here we go. All right. So the GuideStar Seals of Transparency, first and foremost, are not a rating. So there are 4 of them: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So each level is a step further in telling your organization's full story. And more importantly, each step is completely free to achieve. It just takes a little bit of time. So here's a quick rundown for each of the levels. Bronze is basic information, such as contact information, so you can be found. Silver is financials, so you can grow trust. Gold is all about long-term goals and strategies, so you can tell others about your work. And platinum shows the difference you're making by sharing year-to-year metrics. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're actually going to take a look at a really stellar-looking platinum level nonprofit profile and share some tips for making yours just as great. You might recognize the name of the nonprofit we're going to use. We're actually going to use Goodwill Industries International, Inc. Because it is one of the best looking that we've seen so far, and we really do use it for other work sessions too. So it's kind of a treat to be talking to more Goodwills about Goodwill. So let me navigate there. All right. Here we are. So this is the public profile, and it's kind of split up into 4 different sections. So you'll notice there's summary, which is kind of like a table of contents. Then there's program and results. Then there's financials. And then there's operations. And that kind of includes demographics and board practices. So on the right-hand side, you'll also notice there are kind of optional fields like social media, photos, videos, logos, and additional documents such as annual reports. So be on the lookout when we go through this profile for those kind of optional fields as well. Okay, so each of these sections is filled in by the seals of transparency, and when I go through this, I'll point out which sections are filled in by which seal. And if you're curious to see, first of all, how do I even know what seal this organization is at, is always in the top right-hand corner. So clearly they are at platinum, which is very great. So we're going to start going through this. Okay, so this is the summary section. It has pretty basic information, and most of this comes from the bronze seal. So you've got mission statement, service areas, kind of basic contact information. So this is really great for donors or funders to have this kind of at their fingertips. Then we're going to go down here. As you can see, there's some more kind of categorization work on the right-hand side as well. To programs and results. And this does indeed come from the bronze section. In fact, it's kind of the most important because this is the most control that you can have over your profile by explaining the work that you do. So in case you're curious what this is just kind of a quick statement about your impact. So just kind of a quick 1 to 2 sentence statement. Then this is where you talk about your programs. So usually you list your top 3 to 5. In this case, they only have 1, which is totally fine. And you do kind of a brief description. So quick 3 to 4 sentences, keep it nice, short, and sweet. And that is one of the key tips for a GuideStar nonprofit profile, is to keep everything really bite-sized. Keep it really glanceable. Because people are scrolling through profiles, they're not really reading. So that's just kind of a general tip. You can also include categories, population served, and budget, which is always great to do. So this will give people, oh yeah.
I'll just jump in there because I think this is something that, knowing Goodwills a little bit, many of you are known in your community for having kind of the store and the presence of the store. When I actually first, I'm an immigrant, I came to this country from Poland. When I was 12, Goodwills were my place to go to shop. And benefited greatly from that, and just am so appreciative of that. But that's really the way that some people think about Goodwills, right? They see the store and they know that work that you do. What I love that Goodwill International is doing here is that they're highlighting, obviously, maybe the slightly less well-known aspects of your work. The fact that it's really around community-based employment and training, and that that's central to your mission. And I think that's another thing that the profile allows you to do, is to really talk about the work and the way that it's evolving, which in your case maybe is highlighting different aspects of it.
Great, thank you, Eva. That was a really good addition, and please, if you have another point, feel free to jump in as I go through the rest of the profile. So just another quick tip before we leave this bronze section and the programs and results is these guys right here, these program long-term success, success monitored by, success examples. They actually are going to be removed soon. After discussion with sector leaders and our data distribution partners, we expanded the section into Platinum, which we will actually dive into in just a moment. So when you're going through your own profile and you're filling out bronze, no need to fill these guys in. Just wanted to save you some time. Okay, up next is the Platinum seal, and this is all about results. So these are metrics, very tangible ways to show the progress that you're making towards forwarding your mission. So you can see here number of clients served, number of participants who gain employment. So these two are actually very good examples of metrics. There are two types that we usually focus on, outputs and outcomes. Number one here is an output, so number of clients that you serve directly with your programs. And outcomes is what happens after people graduate from your program. So do they gain employment? So these two are very great examples. You can tie your metrics to a program, always recommended, or you can leave it kind of for your organization as a whole. We usually recommend doing 3 to 5 metrics in general. So 3 of those can be tied to your program, and then 2 others can be organizational. You can also do a target population too. And of course, always include context notes. So here at GuideStar, we like to say no data without stories, no stories without data. So you basically want to make sure that you explain each and every metric to make sure people understand the numbers, as well as perhaps they don't know what a client is or how you serve them. You can give a brief 1 to 2 sentence description. So that is Platinum. Here we go. And we usually recommend doing 3 to 5 years worth of data so you can really show a good trend line. So that's a really good tip when you're going into the Platinum section and you're entering all your metrics. All right, and we're going to skip on down past these guys. All right. So this is the charting impact section, and this comes from the Gold Seal. The Gold Seal is all about these 5 questions, and in fact, we came up with them with BBBY's Giving Alliance and Independent Sector. And most of these questions are pretty self-explanatory. I'll go through them all, don't worry. But a key tip to know is we're not looking for an essay. We're looking for maybe 2 to 3 paragraphs, very short, pretty brief, and of course, putting a space in between each one and making them very visually appealing. So a lot of people get to this section and they freak out because it looks like a lot. But to be honest, you've done this work before. If you've done a grant application recently, an appeals to donor, anything of that sort, perhaps a strategic analysis, like a SWOT analysis, that will help you complete this section. You basically grab all those documents, get them together, and then smush them into these 1 to 2 paragraphs. So hopefully that will help you. And let me go up here and actually show you these questions in case you haven't seen the gold section before. So what is your organization aiming to accomplish? What are your key strategies for making this happen? There we go. What are your capabilities for doing this? How do you know if you're making progress? So this one actually directly relates to Platinum. So here you can state perhaps your top 3 to 5 metrics. Give them a goal. Think 5 years in the future. So for all of these questions, you definitely want to have a 5-year horizon. and give yourself that 5 years. Say by 2022 we want to have X number of clients served, and then in Platinum you can show from year to year how many clients you've actually served, and that's kind of a good way to make your profile a little bit more cohesive. So that's a quick tip on question number 4. And then question number 5, what have and haven't you accomplished so far? So the number one question I get from folks is, well, why would I want to put what I haven't accomplished so far? And the way that I phrase it is, not every organization is perfect. Everyone has something to improve, and it's very important to state that so funders and donors can help you achieve that goal. So for example, if you weren't able to implement a program in 2017, you could say, hey, we weren't able to do that, but come 2020, we are very excited to launch it. So that's kind of a way that you can phrase it. Okay, so those are the 5 questions, pretty easy peasy. Now we're going to go on to financials. This all comes from the Silver Seal, and it's an either or section. So you can either upload an audit, as you can see over here, or you can manually fill in some of your basic finances. And the way that you do that is you'll grab your most recent Form 990, take a look at page 1, perhaps the top of page 2, and you'll be able to fill it in. So I'm just going to scroll through this pretty briefly, but this section takes no longer than 5 minutes if you've got everything together. So we have funding sources, assets and liabilities, financial data, and then you get this breakdown. And just so you're aware, I am viewing this profile using a GuideStar Pro subscription. So not all of this information will be available through a basic subscription. So some of these financials, especially the balance sheet, will be reserved for the GuideStar Premium and Pro subscriptions. Okay, yeah, there's the balance sheet. There it is. Okay. Last but not least, we have operations. So this stems mostly from the Bronze Seal and also from your Form 990. So we do receive your most recent Form 990s, upload that information, and put it here. So you can see, you can always check where the source is. This one comes from the IRS. And then over here, this is self-reported. So you can do biographies for your principal officers. There we go. Well, we've got a lot of board members here. There we go. Highest paid employees, governance, board of directors, and last but not least, we're entering into some optional fields. So this is totally optional, doesn't affect your seal at all, but definitely encouraged. So the first one here is board leadership practices. This is practices that your board engages in. 6 yes or no questions, which are really good to take a look at and perhaps start the conversation if you can't answer any of them. Then we have organization staff, and then we have demographics. So this is another way to be transparent. So you can perhaps provide gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and disability. And last but not least, we have contractors. So that is it. That is the full profile. So I'm just going to go back to the top here. And I'm going to pause for any questions before I move on to the next section.
And Madeline, I would love it. So you mentioned the demographics section, and obviously, you know, that we're collecting kind of sensitive information there. So it might be helpful to give a little context about how we treat that information, so that we're not, you know, so that we're talking about it a little bit more in aggregate.
In aggregate? So let me go back to that section then. Great question, Eva. So, gotta do some scrolling. All right. So if your organization has less than 15 staff members, we won't show it, because then people could go to the website and start cherry picking. So yeah, of course, if you have less than 15, we will not show it. But if you have more than that, you can see it's kind of in total. And then you have these nice little graphics.
And we know that, you know, in the field right now, this is something that's really important to many funders and donors to think about, how an organization is thinking about its diversity and how it's moving forward with its kind of focus on diversity. So this is a pretty kind of unique field, and I think the profile kind of starts to highlight an opportunity for organizations to reflect on this at the organizational level, ultimately at the network level, and then beyond. And then we have another great question, which I answered privately, but I think it would be great for others to hear about it. So one of the Goodwills is asking, we are a local territory, we're independent of Goodwill International. Obviously, the profile that you're showing kind of shows an aggregate of all the network's individual results. Is it appropriate for individual Goodwills to have their own profile and to show their local numbers?
Oh yeah, of course it is. It's very important because then that will show exactly what you do, and then you can make your own profile personalized to your own programs. So that's particularly where the programs and results section comes in handy, because you can really break it down from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that in the future, we are looking at how we might be able to show relationships. So, network relationships, thinking about fiscal sponsors and fiscally sponsored organizations, thinking about efforts among multiple organizations like collective impact efforts, where we might start to show some connections. But in each case, yes, it's important for each organization to have a profile and be able to kind of talk about their own work in their own words.
Great. Are there any other questions that may have popped up, or shall I move on to the next section?
There was one more question about in the preview that you showed, Madeline. There were some quotes there from great nonprofits, and that's from potentially individual donors who have donated, or volunteers, or others, individuals who are commenting on an organization. So I guess one clarification was kind of where those comments come from, and then the other clarification is, if an organization doesn't have any comments on great nonprofits, is that okay, or is that a problem? How important are these?
Good question. Very good question. So, here they are. Here's the full list. I would say they're definitely not required, but they do add a really good bonus to your profile, and it is something to be aware of. I believe greatnonprofits.org has a specific date that they accept reviews by. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's definitely a good idea to go to their website and see what that date is, and definitely ask your audience for reviews. Tell them, hey, we need reviews by this date. If you guys can submit it, we would love it. And then it will show up here. So that's definitely a bonus that I would definitely look into.
Yeah, and I would agree. They're not critical. Obviously, often they are a nice to have. Now, this person is, really paying attention here, because Jacqueline, awesome job for being so attentive, because she's saying, well, what about ones that might have a negative comment, right? And how do we think about that? I think that so we display, I think, the first 3 comments, or the most recent 3 comments. And we ourselves at GuideStar, sometimes we don't get positive feedback. We try to learn from that and think about what improvements we might make, but it's not awesome when that shows up on your profile. I would say there's not a way to remove those. The purpose of the whole tool is to collect both positive and negative feedback. But if you encourage, if you encourage your supporters to offer comments, some of those negative ones will be balanced out and, frankly, maybe pushed a little further down the list. So that's, I think, how I would handle it.
Agreed. And good participation. That's a fantastic question. All right. Well, I'm going to move on now. We will stop for questions again. So let me head back into the presentation for you guys. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay. So that was a pretty broad overview of the Seals of Transparency, and hopefully you got some helpful tips from that. But now I want to get to some of the top secret stuff. So these are just kind of a few more ways to make the most out of your profile. Number 1, claim it and go all the way. So you don't want to let your profile remain blank. Claiming it's super easy, and I'm sure most of you have actually done it for this webinar, which is fantastic. And if you haven't, we actually went through the back end and added you as a manager, so no worries on that one. Just know that it's a very easy process, and getting to platinum's easy too, so we think it's worth it. We've also recently discovered that gold and platinum profiles get twice as many views from users than profiles without a seal level. Definitely worth it. Number 2, borrow, don't invent. So the reason why we can say these things are easy is because we know you've already put in that hard work. So search your own website, look for grant applications that you've done recently, look for an annual report, and take what you've done from those great documents and fit it into here. Okay, number 3, for text, less is more. So you might have heard me say this during the broad overview part, but you really do want to keep it short and sweet. Of course, don't cut yourself off here, but remember that online and mobile giving is growing, and you want to be clear for all of the on-the-go donors. Number 4, for data and pictures, more is more. So it's really, really great to put images onto your profile because it makes it a little bit more personal versus just kind of text and numbers. So up next, we're actually going to do an activity where we're going to upload a photo. So hopefully you guys are ready for that. In fact, you can take this moment right now to grab that photo so you're ready. Number 5 is to link it. And this is really important. Your GuideStar nonprofit profile is a fantastic marketing tool, and everything is in one place. So don't be afraid to share the link and share all the good work that you've done. Number 6, 2 easy checkboxes. So when you're done making updates on your page and you go to confirm and publish, you're going to see these 2 checkboxes about sharing your information. The first one is connecting with all of our data distribution partners such as Facebook and Amazon Smile, as Eva has explained. You definitely want to check that. And the second one is to get a donate button on your profile, which is just helpful. So be sure to look at those 2 checkboxes on the way out. And number 7 is to keep it fresh. So you're definitely going to want to continue to update your profile biannually, just to make sure, maybe your programs have changed, maybe your board of directors have changed. You always want to make sure that your profile is up to date. Okay.
And I would say that's especially true if you're sharing the program, if you're sharing your results, your metrics, right? We are encouraging people to come in kind of annually and provide an update on some of those numbers to kind of show trends and progress over time. We know that that's not always going up and up and up, and that's where sometimes the context piece can be helpful to add that context of why a certain trend might be moving a certain way. But we really do hope that organizations can share their results at least on an annual basis to kind of provide that overview for folks.
Perfect. Thank you, Eva. All right. So now we're at our interactive activity. First of all, you don't have to claim your profile because we've done that for you, or you've already done this ahead of the webinar. So great work if you guys went through that process. We really appreciate it. Up next, we're going to go through.
Sorry,
yep.
How will folks know how to get in there if we have, given that you've signed up for this webinar and you represent the organization, that sometimes people get a little bit confused, like, why do I need to claim something? Aren't I already on GuideStar? And when I think about that, we understand that you're on GuideStar by virtue of being a 501c3, a charitable organization, and therefore information about you is publicly available, through the IRS. And so that's how the database is built. Obviously, we are not adding just willy-nilly to organizations' profiles. We're asking each organization and representatives from them to claim the profile. So basically just demonstrate that you can, add information. You do represent the organization that you say you represent. And then secondarily, we ask you to obviously, no one wants to be known by their tax form, to add information about your programs and results, which are really the most important piece. So I think I guess back to my original question, which is for those folks who have followed the quick little video and have claimed, thank you so much, and you're in there and now you know how to do it, over and over, if you need to add folks. And then for those folks where we have added you to the list for your organization's profile, how will they know that that's the case?
Right. I will show you, and that's what we're going to get into right now. So there's an easy way to tell, and that's simply by logging in. So we're going to do that. I'm going to jump on over to GuideStar, and please feel free to follow along with me. There we go. All right. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do, first of all, is I'm going to sign out. So if you guys want to follow along with me, please do. So go to guidestar.org, so www.guidestar.org, and then sign in. So just go to the top right-hand side and click sign in. I'll give you guys a moment here to type in your email addresses and password. There's kind of an easy way to store it, which I highly recommend when you come back in. That way it remembers it forever. All right, hopefully that is enough time. All right, we're going to sign on in here. Perfect. So if you are a manager, you will know you're one if you go to Update Nonprofit Profile and you see the following screen. Here you go. So if you see this screen, then you are a manager and you have access and you can edit your profile. If you don't see this screen, then you'll be prompted to then claim your profile. So hopefully you all see this screen. We're going to, first of all, show you how to add new managers. So great, you're in the system. Now you want to add a colleague. Really easy to do. All you have to do, and if you didn't see that last button there, you either click your organization name or edit form to jump into the editing system. So we are here. And we're just going to scroll down. So this is the summary page. This is where you can kind of access the rest of your profile. Here we go.
And obviously we're showing you the GuideStar profile view.
Yes.
We're not representing a Goodwill, so we don't have access to your profile in that way. Madeline is a nonprofit manager for GuideStar, as am I, as are probably, I think, 10 or 15 other folks at GuideStar who have all at one time or another added to the profile. So this doesn't have to be the work of just one person at your organization. You can add managers, and your person who deals with your financials can include things, and the person who maybe runs the programs can include things. If you're an executive director and a one-man or woman team who wears many hats, obviously you'll be the person who will be looking at this, but if you have a team, even a small team, you can add managers and divide up the work. But we're looking at GuideStar because that's what we have the privileges to look at.
Yes, indeed. And in fact, you will see that list of managers in just a moment. So if you go to the summary page and you scroll down and you go to Assign Profile Managers and then click Update, you'll be taken to that page and you will see we have, I believe, over 20 at this point. We have a lot. So each of us does a little bit to the profile. So, wow, we have so many, more than 20. We have a lot.
And it's not because it takes 20 people. It's because a lot of us, try to talk about the profile and the value of it and how to work it to a lot of different audiences. And so we've added a lot. We've all
added ourselves. Yeah.
We let them do that.
Right. And it's super easy, as you can see, to add almost half the organization. In our case, all you have to do is enter their email address, send a quick note, and then click Add Managers, and you're good to go. The only caveat here is that the person you're trying to add must be registered on GuideStar, so just make sure they've gone to guidestar.org and created an account, and they're good to go. So it's super easy.
Yeah, Madeline mentioned the profile is, free, and registration on GuideStar is free as well.
Yes, thank you.
There are, of course, there are paid services, paid data, paid products, but a lot of our information, I think over 80% of our information is available to viewers for free. But we do ask you to register because we want to know who's using the site and how we can help them better.
All right. So now we're going to add a photo. So now that you know how to add New Manager, that is great. And now we're going to add a photo. So make sure you guys have your photos ready. The way to get into the system, once again, and I know I kind of went through this pretty quickly last time, you can either click your organization name or edit form, and that will take you into the system. There we go. All right. And then from there are two ways to update your profile. You can either use the left-hand side drop-down menu, or you can click this button here, Update Your Profile. Then we'll make our updates. And just so you know, the final step is always to confirm and publish. So when you're making updates and you click Save, you're saving it for your own use, but it's not going to show up publicly. So the last step here is confirm and publish, or you can kind of click this little red button at the bottom here. It takes you to the same page, and that's always the final step. So just be aware of that. We are going to add a photo super quickly. And like I said before, adding photos is very important because it gives your profile a face, which is why we're teaching this to you today. So go ahead, go to the left-hand side here, click Social and Media Outreach, and then go to Photos. Here we go. All right, and this should actually jump you right to the photo section. I found a lovely picture of our CEO, Jacob, that I will be adding today. If you want to take hold of your photo as well, all you have to do is choose a file. Please be aware of the size restrictions. They're kind of small, so please be aware of that. And if you get an error, double check on the pixels especially. That's usually the factor that stops it from being uploaded. So I'm going to choose a file. Here we are, headshot. And then what you're going to do, go to the right here and click Save. And give it a second. All right, and hopefully you guys are doing this as well. Mine is taking rather long. I'm going to, there we go. Okay, perfect.
This is the part of the demonstration that always makes me a little nervous when you're
asking
the gods of the internet to please make it happen. But
there it is. All right. So there he is. And what we're going to do now is press save. So whenever you make changes, you want to make sure that you press save. There we go. And then each time you press save, that little red button at the bottom, Publish Changes Now, will pop up. So you're going to go ahead and press Publish Changes Now. This will take you to the final step. There we are. Confirm and publish. So first of all, we've got some program terms for you guys. You just certify everything yes is up to date. You say yes, I do have permission to update this profile, and you accept our terms of use. Then we have the options for sharing, and I briefly mentioned this earlier. The first checkbox here is that you want to be part of our data distribution network and that all of your information will go to our partners like Amazon, Smile, Facebook, Network for Good, Just Give. And then the second one gives you that donate button. So you just check those guys off and then press finish and publish. And there you go. You now have a photo uploaded to your profile. And of course, with many updates, it might not show up immediately. So we usually say give it about 24 hours and then make sure it's there. So that is it. I'm going to jump back into the presentation from this point, but I hope you enjoyed this. Let me do so.
And Madeline, as you're moving over, there was a quick question here about how many photos or videos can be uploaded.
Ooh, great question. So I'm not quite sure on the limit for photos. As you could see, we had quite a few, but I believe you can do 3 videos total. I know there's a limit for that one.
Yep. Thanks, Madeline.
Yeah, thank you. Good question.
Given that we have only a few more minutes before we're at time, would you mind, Madeline, just advancing me to the next slide?
Yes, indeed. Here we are. Let's just get that last little flag. There it is. Okay, we were going to do a poll, but hopefully you all were successful. And I hope you enjoyed that activity, and I will hand it back over to Eva.
And if you did have problems or issues, please get in touch with us, and obviously we will try to help as well. But just as a final step, I wanted to quickly review kind of how you can benefit. So there's a few reasons that, that we think the profile makes a difference. Let's go to the next slide. So number one, obviously you're trying to build a trusted identity online, and it is for free. Number two, we are trying to help you increase your visibility both through GuideStar.org, but also through our network of data distribution partners. We know that we're not Facebook, so we're trying to help you reach those places where there are a lot of donors. We're hoping also to save you a little bit of time and making sure that, instead of maintaining 200 some profiles, you can go to one place, a single stop, and update your most critical information. We are obviously passionate about transparency in the sector and want to promote that, and that's why we recognize organizations for sharing that information with a seal of transparency. And then finally, we think it's really critical for organizations to move beyond the overhead kind of trap and to really start to talk to progress and results. And that's why we created kind of the gold and platinum sections to really start to enable that conversation. We will be coming to your summer conference in August. Our GuideStar representative, Adrian Bordone, and a few folks from GuideStar will be there in person, helping organizations reach, maybe get to bronze or go from bronze to silver to gold to platinum, help you advance each level. I do want to recognize that there are a number of Goodwill chapters, independent organizations that have already reached platinum and gold. So on the next slide, we wanted to show you quickly that there's a number of you, perhaps some of you are on the phone, many others may not be, but you're already participating. And at the same time, there really are a number of organizations whose good work is not being showcased. And so for Goodwills, we see that there's about 100 Goodwills yet who have not claimed their profile and have not yet gotten to a level, while there's a number of organizations that have progressed and are at bronze, silver, gold, and platinum as well. So we're excited. We really enjoyed our session with you today. You can reach out to us, and also when you register on GuideStar, you have access to the GuideStar community, which is our online portal that has lots of, tips and tricks and questions and answers and guides that helps you tackle this information with some additional support, so that it's not just this webinar, but there are a lot of resources for you in the GuideStar community in case you need more help. I think that's it for us. Madeline, awesome job demonstrating the profile. I hope that it helped to see it live. And then Terry, we'll just hand it back to you.
All right, that's great. Eva and Madeline, thank you all so much. And those who are attending summer conference, please do check out the GuideStar workshop. I wanted to just end with a quick question from a member. They are asking if anyone runs estate planning seminars for donors. In the interest of time, if you do this, please email me. My email is terry.levens, terry.levens@goodwill.org, and let me know, and I can pass that information on. Again, just a question if you're running estate planning seminars for donors. They're looking to start that up, so interested in any information that you can provide. So thank you all again. Thank you to Eva and Madeline, and wish you all a wonderful rest of the day. Take care.
Thank you.